So there are hundreds of viruses out there, but you do not need to know all of them, only the ones that commonly cause infection in humans. And they are broadly divided into either DNA viruses or RNA viruses. So in actual, there are about seven DNA viruses and seven DNA viruses and about 17 RNA viruses. Okay, so if you add them, you need to know about 24 viruses in general. That's all. That's all you need to know about your exam, and you should be good. Okay, so most for DNA viruses, most are double stranded, as you obviously already know. DNA is double stranded, except in one case, which is parvovirus, which is a single stranded DNA virus. So parvo means small, so it's obviously the smallest virus, and you can think of it this way: it's small, so it only has one strand compared to all the other viruses that are double stranded. Okay. Another thing, so this is the smallest, so which one is the largest? That's pox virus. So pox virus is obviously the largest DNA virus, and it causes smallpox, and it replicates outside the nucleus. So all of the DNA viruses are going to replicate within the nucleus, but since this one is the largest, it's going to stay outside and replicate in the cytoplasm. Okay, so that these two are exceptions to this rule. Um, Another thing, most of the DNA viruses are linear. Like we already discussed that the genome is either going to be linear or circular. Okay, so most are linear except for three families, that is Heparina, papilloma, and polyoma viruses. Another thing, most are enveloped except for four viruses that are parvo, adeno, papilloma, and polyoma. We're going to go over all of these one by one, and then this is going to make more sense than it is making now. Okay, so for DNA viruses, the mnemonic is happy. So if you can remember this mnemonic, and if you know all of these viruses that belong to DNA viruses, then you should be able to pick which of them does not belong to this family. Like if I name a virus, and for example, paramyxovirus, you do not see them in the list. And since you remember this list, you know that is going to be an RNA virus. So the first virus we're going to cover is the parvovirus family, and the parvovirus B19 usually causes infection in humans, which is most commonly erythema infectiosum or slap cheek or fifth disease. Now, the thing to know about parvovirus is what I already mentioned. It is the smallest virus because parvos means small, and it is a single-stranded virus, and it is naked. It replicates inside the nucleus. We already discussed that earlier, and it targets the erythroid precursor cells. Now, think of it. If it targeting the precursor cells of erythroid, the red cells, then it's going to cause red cell aplasia. So that's a common feature of parvovirus. Another thing, it causes erythema infectiosum, which is also called slab cheek disease or slab cheek rash, and it's also called fifth disease. Okay, so the way you're going to remember it is, let's say all the DNA viruses are happy, but this one is an exception because it's small, it replicates outside, sorry, it replicates inside the DNA, and it's single-stranded. So the way this virus, so the reason why this virus is an exception is because he's not happy. Why? Because he got slapped. And when you get slapped, you're going to have five fingers imprinted on your face. So that's why it's called fifth disease. And that's why this guy is not happy, because that's an exception, because it got slapped, and because there's going to be five fingers printed on your face, so that's why it's causing fifth disease. Anyway, it also causes aplastic crisis and sickle cell disease, and again, it's targeting the precursor cells, so it can cause aplasia and aplastic crisis, especially the patients who are suffering from sickle cell disease. In adults, it's going to produce joint pain. And the joint pain is going to be similar to rheumatoid arthritis. So you can see RA-like features in the individuals who are suffering from parvovirus infection. And the way the course of infection is going to be presented is there's going to be a low-grade fever and rash. That's obviously going to be started on the face because it's called staph cheek rash. So obviously it starts there and then it slowly spreads to the rest of the body. And there is going to be reticulocyte count less than normal. Obviously, it is causing the red cells to be produced in lesser amount than usual. So there's going to be reduced ready count. Lastly, another thing that you need to know is that this aplastic crisis that the parvovirus B19 is causing is transient. Is transient, which means basically that when the infection is solved, this is going to be resolved as well. Another thing that you need to remember is that if parvovirus B19 infection is present in pregnancy, if a pregnant woman is infected, then she is going to have high hospitalization in the fetus, which obviously is because it's affecting the red cells precursors. Anyway, now we're going to move to the adenovirus. Okay, so the next virus we're going to cover is human papillomavirus. It is circular. Okay, so the next virus we're going to cover is papillomavirus or HPV. It is circular and it is has a double-stranded DNA and it is naked. And one thing about papillomavirus is that it infects the squamous epithelium. So wherever there is squamous epithelium, particularly the keratinized squamous epithelium, these viruses are going to be present there. So there are different types of HPV and different types cause different features. So for types 1 through 4, they cause cutaneous warts. Now these are just going to be warts or rashes present on your hands and foots and usually on the extremities. And the fancy word for cutaneous wart is verruca vulgaris. You need to remember these. And these the types that are going to be causing it is 1 to 4, obviously that I already mentioned. And apart from this, for 6 and 11, 1 to 6 and 11, they're going to cause genital warts. Now these are also worse, but they're present on the genitals. And a fancy name for this is condyloma acuminata. So if you remember, condyloma data you said is somewhere obviously that is caused by syphilis. And this condyloma acuminata is associated with HPV. And the type 6 and 11, they are also associated with laryngeal papillomatosis. This and type 6 and 11 are also associated with laryngeal papillomatosis. And this laryngeal papillomatosis is also called recurrent respiratory papillomatosis and it is obviously going to cause respiratory symptoms. And so if you know that they're talking about HPV because they're warts and they also uh, show you the respiratory symptoms, then most likely this is the diagnosis and these are the viruses that are causing it. So these are the smaller numbers. Like you need to remember that the smaller the numbers, the smaller problem there is. So for 1 through 4 and then 6 to 11, these kind of the types are going to cause rashes or warts that are not that big of a problem compared to cancers. So for the bigger numbers like 16, 18, 31, and 33, they are going to cause cancer in cervical, oropharyngeal, and anogenital areas. And the way these types of HPV cause cancer is through inhibition of P53 and RB. Now, you know, P53 and RB, these are tumor suppressor genes, and P53 particular inhibits the cell cycle in G1 stage. And if you inhibit P53, then there is going to be undisrupted cellular growth, or in other words, carcinogenesis. So the way these proteins are inhibited is through proteolysis that is caused by E6. E6 is particularly going to target P53 and E7 is going to target RB. Vaccination for HPV is quite common, but one thing you need to know is that for vaccines, they are only available for the type 6, 11, 16, and 83. So the cancer causing types like 16, 18, 31, and 33. So you can cover these and you can cover these with vaccines, but 31 and 33 can still cause cancer even if you're vaccinated. So that's what you need to remember. So the next family we're going to cover is polyomavirus, and there are two common viruses that you need to remember from this family. Those are JC virus and PK virus. So JC, which commonly causes PML or progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, is a condition in which there is demyelination of the neurons in the central nervous system. So JC virus is primarily going to target oligodendrocytes because that's what responsible for the myelination in CNS. You already know that. And another thing is that this is going to be present in immunosuppressive states. Okay, so if a patient has AIDS or if there's a transplant or if he's taking some sort of steroids, so that's sort of things. So it is going to cause demyelination of the neurons in the central nervous system and it's going to be present in AIDS. And another thing you need to remember is that a lot of people are infected with JC virus, but they do not produce any symptoms. But The ones that are immunosuppressed, in those cases, it is going to be lethal and it's going to be progressive and it's going to be like a very severe disease. Another thing, for BK virus, it is going to cause nephropathy and hemorrhagic cystitis in renal transplant patients. So there's going to be nephropathy and there's going to be hemorrhagic cystitis. Now, hemorrhagic cystitis, we just studied that it is present in adenovirus as well. So if a patient is had a recent transplant and he presents with symptoms of nephropathy and let's say bloody urine. So you're going to suspect hemorrhagic cystitis caused by BK virus. Whereas if the patient is a young child and he recently went to swimming and or is living in close contacts with other kids, then that's going to be hemorrhagic cystitis caused by your adenovirus. And another common drug that causes hemorrhagic cystitis is cyclophosphamide. Another thing you need to remember is quite commonly asked in examination. So that's it for polyomavirus, JC virus, PML, immunosuppressed states. For BK virus, you can also remember BK for bad kidney because commonly causing the nephropathy and hemorrhagic cystitis is going to be present as bloody urine. And particularly, you're going to see this in transplant patients.